another aspect of self-remembering. Remembering you are the whole cosmos.
Isn't that wonderful?
The whole cosmos becoming aware of itself
Right.
and turning everything to its source.
We are fully known. We're fully known.
Mhm.
And when we see him face to face, being face to face, we fully know.
We are demanded to hold the opposites together and then be reconciled.
The symbol of the yin yang, and knowing that for years and years and years, and knowing the two forces, and then you get the round and round around the robos, kind of effect. And when I was introduced or realized or remembered or however you want to call it to the third force, the reconciling force, I was like, all along I knew something was missing there. You know what I mean? I was like, something's missing. Like,
More than 20 years ago, around 1997 or so, a being of light appeared to me in a vision when my body was sleeping. It made me more aware of what destruction is inside. And they found out that people who live longer, who have lesser illnesses, they have a greater cingulate, anterior cingulate area. However, those who have problems of coping with addictions, they have atrophy in that area. So I'm not saying the brain is the key factor, but obviously true self-remembering and true attention can shape the brain and facilitate
oh, absolutely.
certain energies chemically, magnetically,
Yeah.
spiritually. This
Yeah.
helps. Mhm.
It's a state of mind, you know what I mean? It's a state of being. I think when you're in those sittings, when you're doing sittings, and I think that's kind of a refueling point, to like you said, to gather that magnetism, you know what I mean? Because I mean, in the scriptures it tells us be still and know.
Exactly.
So, so that's what we're called to do. So when you're remembering yourself and you're in those moments, you're actually, you're being the delegate steward of your house, and you're cleaning up, and you're getting the energy to handle all those other little energies. You know what I mean? You're gathering that energy to be who you need to be then, right here and now, So I think with that, that is very beneficial to just to be still, like you said, because it's kind of the mind could get off. If you let the mind off its leash, I call it the thought train. Man, it will take you a million miles down the track. You know what I mean? And how much of that even comes into reality? It's all in your mind. Like 98% of that is never going to happen. And you have all these worries, these this and this, that, and this. And if you pay attention to that, that will take you on the thought train, and you'll be down the line, way down the line. So you have to intentionally stop,
Exactly.
bring it back in, recall it, remember, and do and be what you have to do here and now, in the here and now.
You put it very well because it's the delegate steward, which is more emotional, and also the main steward, which is pure witnessing conscience, the voice of conscience, immediately says when something is false and something is real.
Yes.
However, the subdelegate steward is more a voice. Be careful with this attitude, or look what you are doing, and makes you fall in the trap. It's more a voice that you hear.
Right. Gotcha.
It's a subdelegate. And in the sittings, well, you can feel that.
I think too.
Mhm. Yeah, go ahead.
After you, please. I was gonna say, I think too. That's what Master Ishu meant about when he said, "Be careful, because you know not what time the master comes." And
Exactly.
how you treat your servants, how you treat the sub delegates in you, it's a you have to do it with a with an authority, of course, and with a force, but not with not with anger and hostility, and because nothing gets solved with that, you know what I mean? So it's like you have to come from a loving perspective, as he did. And and as you do that, it's like putting them hot coals on their lap. It gives them something to think about. So it's kind of like, not what hour that the master comes. So make sure when he comes, he finds the house in order, and you doing what you're supposed to be doing, which is delegating all those sub delegates. So in a way that you put your house in order for that remembrance to occur. So when the son comes to the vineyard, you recognize his face, you know who he is, or you recognize your father's face, as you said, like when Joseph recalled.
We are demanded to hold the opposites together and then be reconciled. That's the key.
That is the key.
Maurice Nicoll, which was one of the disciples of Uspensky, even Gurdjieff, wrote commentaries on the teachings of Gurdjieff and Uspensky, and he makes little references to Jesus Christ crucified between the two thieves.
Yeah.
For many years, I did not establish that connection, but it's obvious, no? And I realized that the figure of the thief is referring to something in ourselves, which is stealing energy.
Wow.
The concept in the fourth-way science, if I can use that terminology, is not something apart from life. So it's the harmonia of life. It's not a method or a technique invented by someone. It's a real approach to life. And one of the main ideas is how we lose energy with the wrong work of the centers. We have 5 lower centers, the motor center that allows us to move, the sexual center, the organic center, which makes possible breathing, blood circulation, digestion, etc. And we have the lower emotional and lower mental center. When those 5 work in harmonia, like the fingers in a hand, then unification brings us to the higher emotional center.
Yes.
Which is where self-remembering takes place. And then the higher mental, which is, as Isaac the Syrian said, watching the Holy One face to face.
Wow.
So,
yeah, I mean, I refer to that one. I mean, we are fully known. We're fully known.
mhm.
And when we see him face to face, we fully know.
Exactly.
Woo, as a master. And that will, wow. That's
what Paul said.
beautiful. That's beautiful.
Now we look as through a dark crystal, but it will come the point in which we will know as we were known. That's
Yeah.
about self-remembering and access to the higher mental.
Oh, wow. Thank you. Thank you. Woo. That's that diamond body.
Yes, I've had very few experiences in that direction, and they leave you shocked.
And there's another opportunity right there. That shock.
More than 20 years ago, around 1997 or so, a being of light appeared to me in a vision when my body was sleeping. And this being of light made me see certain behaviors which were destroying myself. And he said telepathically, "You are mature enough, spiritually mature enough to keep with those behaviors." That shocked me. From then onwards, I became more aware of what divine conscience is. I felt remorse. I didn't feel scolded or punished.
Right.
it made me more aware what destruction is inside.
Yes.
And I was very young. But obviously, in other existences, my soul was already working. So that's why he said, you are mature enough to keep
Wow.
reflecting. That's why when you make progress in the way, it comes a point in which be careful with looking back because you can fall even lower than
Wow.
you began.
Yeah. That's what he says when you clean the house and you get rid of those spirits, and you don't fill it with something. Seven more worse than the last will come in and visit, and that's what he says when you put your hands to the plow, there's no looking back. You look back, you turn into a pillar of salt. You know what I mean? Yeah. So we
This
got to keep our hands on the plow, man, and do what we're meant to do.
this is exactly what some would call the squandering of the energies, because we
Yeah.
squander mentally, emotionally, organically, sexually, and that's the thieves.
Yeah. That's the prodigal. That's
Yeah,
the prodigal right there, squandering of the energies.
exactly.
And how and it's unheard of for you to get your inheritance before your father passes away. Well, we know our father never passes, but he gives us all good gifts here. He gives us our inheritance,
Uh-huh.
and that's unheard of in this culture. You don't get your inheritance until, and he got his inheritance before. And that's like, I think that's a form of forgiveness because it comes before you even do anything, before the cosmos was even formed. That there was the how they say it, the lamb was slain, kind of, so that's that forgiveness, and he gives us that same. He don't withhold nothing. So if we forgive others, then we're forgiven. So we have the ability to forgive, ourselves. And I think that's like the most difficult thing at times, because you catch yourself doing something, like you said, you're aware that you're doing it, and then that's totally out of character of who you truly are. And then but you have to use that same forgiveness that you would extend to your closest family member or your closest friend. You have to extend that same forgiveness to yourself, and know that that's water under the bridge. And to it's like being in the refiner's fire, and it's not an all-consuming fire. It's just burning up that dross. You know what I mean? And you want to hold on to that hot lap of coals, or do you want to stand up and forgive yourself and keep going and keep moving? It's not about let that stick you in a place where you don't want to be, like being a stick in the mud, or being a branch of the tree of life that's laying on the ground. You have to be infused into that tree. You have to be grafted into that tree to be alive. You could exist as a branch on the ground, outside of the tree, off the tree. But when you're a branch in, that's what that forgiveness does. That allows you to do things like that, and I think that's something we got to remember too, as we're going through this journey here, that we have to be that witness and not being that accuser and the diablos, and really, just a good witness testifies to the truth, and that's what we're here to do. We're truly truth seekers, the fullness of the truth, because that's that's all encompassing. And when that truth really does set you free, that truth really does allow you to live from a place of self-remembrance of who you truly are.
Yes, because those attitudes, criticism or guilt, negative emotions, negative thoughts, pessimism, self-sabotage are the thieves. That's energy consuming. So when we remember we don't have energy because we have been squandering energy through mental attitudes which are harmful, emotions which are completely toxic. Therefore, we need to keep the magnetism.
Yes.
It's amazing how we can find that in teachings, even though they are with a religious garment or mythological garment, but it's there.
You know, when it came originally, it was the truth. They took it and borrowed it for themselves and made it what they made it. But the truth is still in there. You know, they could take out or add whatever they want, but they can't get rid of the truth. You know what I mean? You could veil it, disguise it, and wolves in sheep clothing, whatever you want to do to it, but the truth is always going to shine through. You know what I mean? If you're a truth seeker, you could see through that. You know, you could after he blesses you with the gift of remembering who you are. When you're looking from that perspective, you could see right through that veil that they put on there, or the little additions or twists that they make. You like, wait up, something ain't right here. You know what I mean? That's not conducive with truth and love and hope and faith, and you know what I mean. So you could really, if you look at it and you don't get closed in that box of religion or rituals, and you stay open to the truth, no matter what it is, you're going to come to find out that the master brought it with them, and he left the helper here, so we could always tap into that, so to say. Not that. So it's this it's a beautiful thing.
There is a thread of truth in every true search. And once you find those threads, it's easier to find them again.
Yes.
But it's also easy to get loose. Loose and lost. Because you get loose because you don't apply the necessary effort. And lost because maybe you get distracted with teachings that have nothing to do with true transformation and the true work.
Right.
And that's the importance of keeping an eye on something real.
Yep.
For me, fourth way teachings are really adapted to modern times and the Western mindset, even though they can be complemented by the visions of the tree of life, for instance. Those are more traditional, maybe more inspired by ancient texts, but we can understand them through this more ascetic way of approaching inner work. As when Gurdjieff explained the relation between the passenger, the conscience or true being is the passenger in the chart with the horses, and the driver. Not the driver is the mind, and the driver has the reins holding the horses. The horse goes to the right or to the left. It's positive or negative. Those are the emotions, sensations.
Yeah.
But he said something very important. The pieces of wood that hold the horses together, we could call them the yokes, are a type of energy that the body produces mechanically. But that's important, it's a certain magnetism. Then there is the energy corresponding to the reins. So the mind, in order to govern the horses, needs a certain type of, not mechanical energy, but an energy that you produce by reflecting, pondering, being more acute, more attentive. But then we need a totally conscious work to produce the energy that connects the mind to the passenger, the conscience, true being, because that's a language, an inner language that cannot be understood unless we have that connection. And that's where we have to be very fine, subtle, harmonizing the mind, the heart, the body. And when you understand these keys, I'm not going to say it's easier, but you know how to solve the situations better, especially when you have a problem, you have the size of transformation. You have to take the negative and the positive, unite them, and be reconciled.
Yes.
In the name of the Father, the Son that suffers, and the Holy Spirit that reconciles. The science
Wow.
in
Yeah.
Christianity. Even Mr. Gurdjieff has an expression. No? When he wrote his tales, he wrote them in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. And there is a passage in Holy Planet Purgatory, I think, where he explains the three forces. And he gives a formula, which is beautiful. It's holy affirming, holy negation, holy reconcile, transubstantiate in me for my being. That's part like a meditative formula
Yeah.
and even use in a sitting or in a reflective state after facing something difficult to recognize and integrate all the forces.
Yes.
That's really powerful because it awakens your being to a degree of being participant, active participant in the
Yeah.
healing of the cosmos through yourself. That's the redemption of Adam, as they would say in Hebrew.
Yeah. Right. I remember just seeing the symbol of the yin yang and knowing that for years and years and years and knowing the two forces, and then you get the round and round around the robos, kind of effect. And when I was introduced or realized or remembered or however you want to call it to the third force, the reconciling force, I was like, all along I knew something was missing there. You know what I mean? I was like, something's missing. Like you just can't spin on the wheel on Google round and round and round. You know what I mean? There has to be that reconciliation. You know what I mean? And that's where the beauty is. That's where the all is. That's the all in all right there. Right in that reconciling force. That
But
was a
many
beautiful
people
thing.
don't understand that because they keep the old ways of meditation and spirituality ruled by what even Taoists would call the mother of the thousand things, which is the Tao you can speak of, no? The Tao of opposites that
Yeah.
follow one after another in succession in a mechanical way. We have to
Right.
beyond the Ouroboros, the serpent, that by
Yes.
some tail, the SOS serpent operative system. SOS is please help me. Get me.
Right. Yeah. And even that's crying for help. You know what I mean? Yeah. That's kind of like Sophia too.
Exactly.
That's the fallen wisdom. That's that fallen wisdom.
It's very sad to see people who say claim they are Gnostics and they are eaten by the serpent constantly.
Oh man.
They speak about the Kundalini, and
Yeah.
how
Need that kunda buffer.
yes, that's of Gurdjieff, no?
Yeah.
Mm.
Get caught up in that imagination too much.
Imagination is the force that can be used in order to see yourself outside, because everything we see is the result of imagination.
Right. Wow.
Boundaries.
Right.
Everything is being imagined by the,
Woo.
the mind,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
you can use it to see it as a mirror. We can see the birds, the mountains, and water as elements that are in ourselves.
Absolutely.
Birds are the mind. The water is in our whole body.
Yeah. Yeah.
We are made of minerals, elements, which are alive in a sense.
Yeah, everything is.
The human being is the compositum of the whole cosmos. That's another aspect of self-remembering. Remembering you are the whole cosmos.
Isn't that wonderful?
The whole cosmos becoming aware of itself
Right.
and turning everything to its source, to making human experience holy, divine, in spite of the madness.
Yes.
That's, I guess, the most elevated aspect of self-remembering. But we have to identify the points that keep us from self-remembering. I left an article in the blog, I don't know if you read it, passages, interesting passages from fragments of An Unknown Teaching or Stanley Knott, even Rodney Collin, and some other. But there is a part of the teaching where we can really see the obstacles. Not the first obstacle is identification. We identify not just with our name, our position, our job, but also with what others say about ourselves. That's very sad. Someone says something negative and we react as if it were true.
Right.
If it's true, okay, I accept it. If it's not true,
Right. Yeah.
that's inner considering. That's another obstacle.
Yes.
To lay too much emphasis on what others think about what you are, what you do, what you say. Inner considering depends on identification.